Thanks, Mark, and thanks everyone. Thanks for having me today. Ruth, I was thinking about, you're here, you're honoring your mom. This is my last teaching before I bring in my daughter, and also what an appropriate month to be thinking about intergenerational lineage and stories in the month of Nisan, where the full moon of this month, we participate in, if not the oldest, one of the oldest traditions on earth of retelling the story of Exodus from one generation to the next. Some teachers talk about Pesach, meaning mouth speaks, that you eat and you recount the story of your ancestors and you imagine it for yourself, as each of us could leave. So it does feel like we're in a full circle moment here, and thanks for honoring your mom with us today. Um, so Nissan, we're on the fifth day, so I can't really say Chodesh Tov, but we're still within the first week, and that means I can also say Happy New Year because we have 4 New Years in the Hebrew calendar. Fun fact. We have obviously Rosh Hashanah, which is the birthday of the world, and we also have the 15th, the full moon of the month of Shvat, which is the birthday of the trees. And we have the most obscure one, the first of Elul, which is the it's kind of like tax, it's like a tax day, sort of like a tithing of animals. If you think about, when you need to take good care and make sure that everyone has equity in our society. And the beginning of Nisan is the birthday of the Jewish people. And so it's the beginning of our story. And in the Torah, this is month one. This is called Rosh Chodashim. The head of all the months is this month. So if that's complicated for you, just think about all the other New Years that you celebrate. If you have kids, schooling New Year. If you like baseball, baseball New Year. If you have taxes, hopefully everyone's doing that. We have Jewish New Years, we have personal New Years, we have anniversaries. Actually, we can have many, many, many New Years, which is a beautiful reminder that every month, but especially this month of Nisan, can be an opportunity to renew and restore and set new intentions for yourself. So let's talk a little bit about Nisan before we drop into our meditation. I promise we're getting there soon. We just come out of the winter. Yay! Maybe put into the chat something that you're noticing about seasons changing wherever you are. I'm in Washington, D.C., so flowers are blooming. And my 2.5-year-old is going around. We asked her to tell us whenever she saw flowers blooming, and now she's just driving in the back of the car going, blooming, 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 blooming. Um, that is the sign that spring is here, and also that is a sign that Passover and Nisan is here because it's the last month that kind of like pushes us into the spring. We've just come from Shvat, which is the transition from winter to kind of warmer weathers. It feels like it was still snowing. Then we had Adar, and it was wild and crazy. And now we're fully immersed in spring. Our Seder plate will remind us of that. And then we have the months that will follow that will be beautiful spring before, comes times for Shavuot, where we turn into summer. The word for Egypt in Hebrew, Mitzrayim, comes from the root, mitzar, which means narrow place. So if you think of yourself coming from the winter of a narrow place and moving into a more expansive place, a space of freedom where blooming trees happen, and other opportunities that might resemble in our life. From the narrow place, Metzar, I called out to God, and God answered me from the expanse. This is our month for that. Not only to retell the story of our ancestors, but to bring it into our own selves and to bring it into our meditation practice. Of course, praying that that can be true for everyone in our communities, both here and afar. So I'd love for us to sit into our meditation now with this invitation to call out from our narrow places and find our expanse, whether or not held in the divine or just our breath. So find yourself in a comfortable seat. Feel your bones supported. Start turning your gaze downward, your thoughts turning inward. Feel free to let's take 3 really big breaths together, inhaling and a big open mouth exhale. Can let people in the room next to you know that you're meditating, not to come in if you breathe really loud. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. And doing anything else that you need to get your body into a position that's ready to spend the next 15 minutes inward looking. Lengthening your spine, even just symbolically to the sky. Thinking of that connection from above, that light that reaches our Keter or Kipa, charging up there. And just notice, even if that small invitation creates a little bit more space. In the beginning of our meditation, just noticing the quality of your breath. Without judgment, just notice. In Exodus, the children of Israel were described as being kotzer ruach, having shortness of breath. Just check in with your personal ruach. Once we move from our breath into our body, seeing if there's any place in your body that's in a narrow place. Mitzrayim, your shoulders, your hips, your back. We'll start using our breath to send it to those places. Breathing in, feel the full cycle of your breath from expansion to the contraction, back to the expansion and contraction. An invitation to stay here and just be with your breath, inhaling and exhaling. Or if you'd like to take gentle movement with me, I'm going to invite us to do some basic spinal twists, which can put ourselves in a position of Mitzrayim so we can feel a little more expansive in our back. So if you'd like, you can take your hands to your shoulders or to your sides. Inhaling up, exhale, just a gentle twist. Taking one breath here and a big exhale, release. Inhaling, exhaling here. We'll inhale, go to the other side. Hold it for a breath. And exhale, come back to center. Stay here or do one more round on your own. And just notice if there's anything different in your body. Stay here or join me for a 2-part Mitzrayim squeeze, where you inhale your body to a tight position, tight fist, tight face, tight, and then you exhale, let it go. Inhale, tightness, tightness, tightness in your body, constriction, and then exhale, let it go. Feel free to take one more on your own where you're really inhaling tight, feet, legs, stomach, back, and exhaling, let it go. And then just sitting here in our body. In every generation, we're invited to also leave Egypt. Although the circumstances of our lives might be different than those who are actually leaving slavery, it still takes courage to move from a tight bud to something that's open and blooming. Take a couple moments now with your breath, your intention for yourself for the month of Nisan, and call out to the divine, the places where you might feel tight, that you want to be more free. And with each exhale, imagine that's God answering from the expanse. Bring spaciousness to your body, to your thoughts, to your soul. And when you're ready, you can take your hands together, warm them up. Place them right on your heart. And take a couple of moments here with your breath to set your intention for the month of Nisan. Where we're invited to hold the story of our ancestors true in our lives and to tell others we deserve more freedom and we can work towards it. Take your final breaths here. When you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Feel free to lean into the screen. Give someone's face a high five. They're going to do Nissan with you. We're all going to do it together. And then what becomes possible in our communities and our families if we all step closer into our most expansive self, which is what Jewish wisdom invites each of us to do during the springtime. Happy Nissan, everybody.
Thank you so much, Sarah, as always. What a wonderful way for us to move into this new month together. And let's seal the practice by offering an opportunity for those of you who are in mourning or observing the yard site in this season to recite the Mourner's Kaddish. And if you're not reciting Kaddish, we ask, please stay present to support those who are. Created Minyan. Thanks to Rachel for sharing the words on the screen. You can put the name or names of those you are honoring today in the chat now or after you recite Kaddish. And take a moment here that if you are not reciting Kaddish to really see if you can imagine yourself sitting in the same room, being present for those who are reciting Kaddish, and bring your attention to them and send your love and compassion and support to them as they recite the Kaddish. And if you're reciting Kaddish, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit. And as you hold your loved ones in your heart, and together we can recite the Kaddish, and you can unmute at this time.
Amen.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us today. For those of you who stayed present, for those reciting Kaddish, thank you so much for helping to create this minyan of love and support. I want to thank Ruth Feldman for sponsoring our practice today in loving memory of her mom, Marcia Brodsky Feinberg. Zichronah Livracha, may her memory, Ruth, be a blessing always in your life and in this world. Thank you so much for lifting up her soul and honoring us all by sponsoring today's practice. Thanks so much for that. If you're leaving us now, hope you'll join us tomorrow. We'll be here all week. Tomorrow, Rabbi Jenny Solomon will be leading our practice, and my friend and colleague, Rabbi Josh Figelston, will be hosting. So we hope to see you tomorrow. And of course, you're welcome to stay on to share your experience with the beautiful practice Sarah led, ask a question, could put that in the chat. It's always helpful to write question if you're asking a question uh, before a question, if it's a question. Thanks so much. Sarah, thank you. I don't know about others. People can share in the chat, but I just found this incredibly helpful. It's such a hard time, and in the world, for the Jewish people, for the world, and yet, it's Nissan, and you are where you're at in your life and stuff happening there. And I think my main experience was just this powerful reminder, which is simple, but still nevertheless powerful, and maybe powerful because it's simple, of moving from constriction to expansion. And I'm thinking about how, and I think you really kind of brought this to life, that the two go hand in hand. It would be nice, sometimes it's nice to think, I just want expansion. I just want spaciousness. I don't want I could do without the constriction. But the constriction really serves as an essential counterpoint, right? So I don't know. I want to invite you to talk a little bit about that in terms of, like, it was really powerful to kind of scrunch up the body the way you were describing and inviting us to, and then release that. And the release feels different than it would if we hadn't, for me, the release feels different though. I feel different in that release than if I hadn't scrunched up.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. I think my approach today, I wanted to just, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. My approach today, I wanted to just be simple, approachable, light. Like I read the room, I know what's going on, I know what's happening in the world. There's a lot, there's too much, you never know what's going to be. And I didn't want to do something like too intellectual because that is Passover. There's a lot of intellectualizing. There's like so much to learn and to think about and relevant and how this is for today. And we're going to get to that. And I'm 100% sure this month is going to have a lot of meditation that's going to be very heady. And I just wanted to lay the invitation to remind ourselves to be in our bodies and use our breath in our bodies. So that was my like first thought.
Hmm.
Um, and especially since at Passover is actually extremely embodied. I actually think that we default into the mind a little bit too much when actually it's like clean your house. That takes a lot of work. Get your dishes ready. That takes a lot of work.
Hmm.
And then the Seder plate is actually like a cleanse. And we're not really supposed to eat the bread of affliction all week long for every single meal. That doesn't make us feel good. It makes us feel afflicted.
Hmm.
Eat seasonal foods. When you think about it that way, it actually can be right on time for a spring full body experience of a cleanse, which is also, in the wellness world, kind of like thinking about a more expansive version of yourself. So I wanted to think about that for everybody. And also, I didn't want to do too much because I know that there's a lot going on and there was 200 of us online and people didn't sign up for a yoga class.
Hmm.
So I gave just two very simple things to experience expanse in a very gentle way. And I'm like, 39 weeks pregnant, so my twist is like this far,
Hmm.
and still my back cracked. And it was like the good kind, not like I was getting out of, it was just like, oh, you want a little more space? Here's a deep breath, a little opening. And so I wanted to invite people for something simple to remind them that actually Nissan's a very embodied time. We can get stuck in thinking our way through Passover when actually I think it's about experiencing Passover. And one of the things that we can do the most for ourselves, since Judaism is like individual responsibility within community, we're each responsible for leaving Egypt, but we're doing it all together. And I can't do it for my daughter. I can try to teach her why it's important. I can't do it for her. I can't do it for anybody else besides me. Is that the thing that we actually all have control over is our own relationship to our bodies, whether or
Hmm.
not we're experiencing sickness or health or whatever. we can come to a place of wholeness within whatever our experience is, and we can do kind things to our bodies to become more free, no matter from what place we are in. And so simple twists or even just scrunching and releasing can show us some of the tension that we have. So that was kind of my intention. And my background before I let out the well was teaching mindfulness and yoga in schools. And we always teach people in body awareness practices that tightness in their body can sometimes be the equivalent of tightness in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Limber people they're not always the most open-minded. Sometimes they're also very floaty and not on earth all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
if we have tight shoulders because we sit at our desk and we're thinking a lot and we're, in a strange relationship and we're reading the news too much, some gentle stretches might do us some good this Nissan. So that's all my
Yeah.
thinking about how I ended up in this practice today. So I
Yeah.
gave a more complex answer maybe than you were thinking, but
No, no,
I
not
want
at
to,
all. Not
and
at all.
you can invite, I know that like fourth glass of wine reclined to the left. But you could also bring some simple twists into your Seder table and see what happens with your family if just creating a little bit more space in our breath with each other.
Mm-hmm. What you just said, I think, relates to Gail raised this question in the chat. Even with avoid reading the news, I now find myself jumping into what if much, and it's much more difficult to stay in the present moment. Suggestions. So I don't know. It feels like applying what you just said, Sarah, to that.
I have an answer to
Yeah.
you,
Go ahead.
and then maybe you have something else that's like Torah based or I don't know, Mark wise.
No?
One of the reasons that I love the Hebrew calendar is that I'm focused on entering my spirituality and my Judaism through present moment awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I am using the themes of the month as a foundation for my life from which to view everything that's going on. And I find the Hebrew calendar to be incredibly inspiring for both teaching me about what it means to live in a northern hemisphere and also as a Jewish person and a path forward that in complex times I actually have something to root into that my ancestors have used as medicine too. So my answer to that person is to be in present moment awareness,
Mm-hmm.
both of the sort of like breath, immediacy of breath and body, and also in a more spiritual, connected Jewish way. What day is it in the Hebrew calendar? And that in a mindfulness practice, like Vipassana meditation, right, that we're kind of like a little bit connected to here at IJS, that
Mm-hmm.
thanks to a lot of Jewish people who came to United, brought this type of thinking in a lens that we're here today, where it's awareness without judgment. When we teach that type of mindfulness practices, we are saying that if you are thinking in the future, you're probably worried. And if you're in the past, you're ruminating on something that's already happened. But if you're in the present, you can just be. You can be responsive rather than react.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my answer to the news.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that it's not bad. Like it is not good. I'm right here in Washington, D.C. with you. And there's another layer of the Hebrew calendar that you can put on to what is happening today so that you can know that it's March 23rd, 2026, and it's like this. And it's also the 5th of Nisan, 5786. And I am still the freest version of my ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore I have another way of seeing what's happening in the present moment. And I'm in the month of freedom where I'm invited to become more free so that my daughters might be able to be freer than I am. And that's really on my shoulders to take that on. So my answer to that question is use the present moment awareness of the Hebrew
Mm-hmm.
calendar and the medicine of the same four Torah portions that correspond to that month with the seasons and allow it to be something that you could be fertile ground in. Not going to solve the problems that we have. Not solving TSA lines for your Passover Seders that we're all going to have to front in order to get to our loved ones, right? But maybe you can be a little bit more free in that line with people around you rather than adding tightness and restriction to an already tight spot.
Yeah. Well, I'm into that. I would have said something along those lines too. I mean, that's in terms of our, what we describe as our practice, really, like anytime we notice that our mind is drifting off, either ruminating about the past, as Sarah just said, or future tripping, we might say, like, ca- traveling off to the future. We wake up to that, and then we come back to the intention of being present. Um, and I think a few people wrote in the chat as well, like in the present, we actually don't know what's going to be, right? It's like anything is possible. So the only thing I want to add to that is that, and maybe this is because I'm I'm writing a little talk I have to give later today, and it brought me back to this quote by, you might remember this too, Sarah, the Sikh activist Valerie Kaur, who in 2016, I think it was like an election night, 2016, gave this talk where she did something to the effect that perhaps this is not the darkness of the tomb, but the darkness of the womb. That that's we could catastrophize and say like, oh, this is terrible. This is what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? And she kind of turned it on its head to say like, well, the what if could also be what we consider very positive. That is that that things might unfold in a different direction. So another way to go when what if comes up is to notice the what if is so often because of our negativity bias is maybe a catastrophic what if, but the what if could also be our imagination for something amazing, right?
Yeah. Right.
That might unfold. And so in the Seder, the second half of the Seder, which often gets neglected, because
Full.
we get full and we're cleaning up, etc.
Yeah.
But we got, the cup of Elijah, Miriam's cup, all of which represent, a future that's better than the one we're in now. So it's an opportunity to kind of use as long as we're going to be in the future, we could have a choice there to shift our attention towards the possibilities of something better instead of something worse, too.
Yeah. And like I said, the bread of affliction, it is actually the
Right.
bread of freedom and
Hmm.
affliction. Talk about
Hmm.
holding more truths at one hand. So
Yeah.
every moment you can have the opportunity of seeing it is a tomb or a womb, right? Like that woman said, I think it was actually during Trump's first inauguration,
Yes.
like speech.
Right. Yeah.
Not to get into politics, but it's a beautiful quote. And I think, if our ancestors hadn't been slaves, we wouldn't have been able to go out into Egypt and we wouldn't have to go to promised land and we have Diana. And
Hmm.
so there's and let us remember there have been hard times before and we're still here. And that's beautiful. And we can take that joy and resilience and turn it into something that we can become more free from wherever we are, even if it's
Yeah.
darker than it's been in the past. Um, and I
That's one of
think
the things that
that
I think
is
we
why
really,
we have Nissan,
yeah.
because everything that we're saying is very human. And Judaism is at the core, is about helping us to live intentionally. That's why we have 100 prayers a day that also get neglected, but they're trying to help us not be future worrying or past ruminating and
Hmm.
say, oh my God, you have lunch? That's amazing. Bless the moment. Oh my gosh, you're digesting? That's insane. Bless the moment. And have all these little micro practices for us to find the
Hmm.
gratitude and the call out from the expanse, from the divine. I think that is beautiful.
Yeah. I think the other thing that was really very moving during the set, Sarah, was, at the beginning when you invited people to share in the chat those signs of spring, right? The signs of Nissan that are bubbling up. Just reading those, I want to encourage people to, scroll up and look at those because for me, just reading those, even if I'm not personally witnessing them in the moment, um, is uplifting. It lifts up the spirit. So I happen to have that quote handy because I'm working on this little talk and I put it in the chat, the Valerie Kaur from her speech, which is, I would say, pretty apropos of the moment, um, our larger moment and our smaller moment here with you, being a couple of days away from another child. Um, so anyway, I wanted to offer that, and but I mostly want to appreciate Sarah, um, your presence and what you offer to this community, which there's a lot of appreciation in the chat today for the gifts that you bring us, which percolates into the world beautifully through your work at the well. And so I want to offer you, before we leave, a couple blessings. First, I want to just bless you that all goes well
Amen.
for your baby, for you, for your family. Big adjustment. Um, with a 2.5 year old, and the next transition to move through. May it be a chapter that's full of blessings for all of you. May you heal and be well, um, and may you be blessed to come back to us later this spring as scheduled. I think June is like the first time we have you back on the schedule. But people, not to worry. When we're at Rosh Chodesh, in the interim, Sarah's colleague at the well, Lily,
Swanbrow Becker.
how do you say the second name?
Swanbrow Becker.
Juan Brow Becker, who's the
Yes,
program director at the well, who's uh, an experienced leader of practice, will be sitting in for Sarah, and we're looking forward to welcoming Lily to the chair to lead us on those Rosh Chodesh. And want to thank you for all the blessings you bring us, Sarah. Thank you so much.
thanks, Mark. That really means a lot to me. I'm taking all the blessings into my, there's a lot of like jokes about I'm leaving Mitzrayim or I'm going out to the birth between Nissan and what mothers do to create humans, leaving this constricted womb into freedom, and into this beautiful world that is complicated and full of love and has an amazing community of people who are walking the same path, in presence together. So I'm excited to bring her into this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you're bringing it to a better world because of you and all you do. And we're very grateful and hope you can take in all the beautiful blessings that are in the chat as well and the good vibes that are coming your way. So,
appreciate it.
and what a great timing. It's just fantastic. Um, so wish you a Chag Sameach also. It's very
We got
special.
our bassinet ready, and my
Oh,
daughter's in Jewish preschool, and she's singing about putting Moses in the basket. There's like a little Moses. I don't
yeah.
know if your kids or grandkids are singing about finding Moses in the baby basket. She came home, she got in the bassinet, put on the floor, got in the bassinet, and was like, Moses, basket. And we were like, yes, and what if not Moses' basket? So we're gonna have a lot of fun.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, we'll stay tuned here and see what comes.
Yeah.
All
Thanks,
right, everyone.
everybody. Happy
Great
happy
to be
Nissan.
with you.
Good to see you,
Happy
Mark.
Nissan to all. Thanks, Rachel, for holding us together today, and Ruth for sponsoring us. And see you all tomorrow to practice with Jenny Solomon, everyone.